You want answers?
I'm as mad as hell, and I'm not going to take this anymore.
You want answers?
You have offended my family.
I think I'm entitled. You want answers? I want the truth.
And you have offended the Shaolin Temple.
You can't handle the truth.
Surely you can't be serious.
I am serious. And don't call me Shirley.
Radical Rant.
Longtime listeners to the show will know that the whole reason I'm here has to do with drug testing. So whenever there's a drug testing story pops up on the news, I take a little time to talk about it. And today I want to talk about the attitudes that are allowing drug testing to flourish in this country. And it comes to me because of a story I picked out of Cincinnati.com. It was entitled, LaSalle to Drug Test All Students. LaSalle being a school, right? And that caught me at first because I thought, wait a minute, didn't the Supreme Court say random suspicionless testing, random suspicionless testing of all students was unconstitutional? Don't they have to be involved in extracurriculars or going out for a football team or something? Well, that's true when we're talking about public schools. LaSalle is a private Catholic prep school, all boys prep school in Ohio. So this is information from the school administrators here talking about the test. All students will be tested when they first enroll at the school, and then they will be randomly tested later on. They say, quote, the student will be tested approximately 100 days after a first positive. So if they fail any one of the tests, 100 days later, they'll test them again. Any student who tests positive twice during their career at LaSalle will no longer be permitted to remain as a student. End quote. 2 strikes and you're out at LaSalle. Now, the problem I've got with it, now this is a private school again, so really they're legally allowed to set whatever rules they want to. I just hate the attitudes that allow them to not only get away with doing this, but have many of the parents cheering it on. This was Scott Greiner. Scott Greiner has a son who's a freshman there at LaSalle, said he's proud of the school for taking this stand. He said, quote, it does give students an easy way out. I can say, I get tested. If I fail a test, athletics are gone. My education, who knows? And like my dad said, I'll be in big trouble at home, end quote. All right, this is that theory that if you have the drug testing at the school, a kid who would normally want to try drugs, oh gosh, I can't wait to try some drugs, but gosh, Rudy, they're going to drug test me, so I won't. Okay, so that's the theory behind that. Now, LaSalle has secured the services of Psychomedics Corporation, and they're not going to do just average urine testing. They're going to do hair testing. By the way, hair testing much more expensive. Instead of anywhere from $15 to $30 a unit when you're doing the urine testing, it can be $60 to $90 a test when you're doing hair testing. They do this for over 250 schools across the country, by the way, Psychomedics Corporation. Big business. LaSalle said the school will use hair testing rather than body fluids like urine or saliva because compared to analysis of body fluids, hair testing is highly resistant to evasion by adulterating or substituting samples, or by simply abstaining from drug use for a few days. The test will screen for cocaine, marijuana, heroin, codeine, morphine, oxycodone, hydrocodone, hydromorphone, methamphetamine, ecstasy, Molly, phencyclidine, that's PCP, and that'll be voluntary in the first year, but in the 2014-2015 school year, it will be mandatory. All students will give hair up for the test. And if parents want to, they can pay an additional fee and have alcohol screened for. That won't be mandatory, though. That's just, kid might be drinking, you got to pay extra to check that out, right? Now, the hair testing does detect drugs for a longer window of time. It's not as discriminatory when it comes to marijuana users as is the metabolite testing, where the metabolites of other drugs flush in a few days. Marijuana sticks around for a week or two. With hair testing, the drugs pretty much are detectable. Problem with hair testing is it's discriminatory toward African Americans and people of Mediterranean descent. If you get that thick, curly, kinky hair, that tends to not only have a higher rate of maintaining the drug metabolites, but also higher rates of false positives. But it's not like black folks are discriminated against anyway when it comes to drugs. That's sarcasm, people. So that's one of the attitudes. One attitude is this idea that we're giving the kids a way out, a way to resist peer pressure. If there's a drug test, they know they could get caught. Well, by God, they'll resist peer pressure. Another attitude that's getting to be very prevalent is well, I gotta do it. If I gotta do it, you gotta do it. This one, Nancy Kahn, she's a parent whose son is a junior at the school, said she welcomes the program and wishes the school had done it sooner. Quote, I just went back to work and I had to do it. It's a way of life now. End quote. It's a way of life now. Gosh, everybody's got to, surrender their Fourth and Fifth Amendment rights, against unreasonable search and seizures and against self-incrimination. Gosh, everybody's doing it. Remember that old thing parents used to say, gosh, if everybody was jumping off a cliff, would you do it too? Well, it looks like we are. looks like we are. Gosh, we started with the air traffic controllers and the train conductors for safety sensitive reasons, of course. Want to make sure they're not high on the job. And then it became, well, gosh, anybody who has a job that might be safety sensitive. And then it became, well, gosh, anybody who might have a job. Then it became, anybody who might not have a job and might be applying for unemployment benefits because they're going to have to test if they get a job. And, well, my gosh, let's check the kids in the high school too, at least if they're going out for football, because that's dangerous, right? We don't want a bunch of high kids running around on the football field. And, well, while we're at it, let's drug test the kids that are trying out for any extracurricular activity, because then it'll be the carrot and stick approach. Then we can say, gosh, kids, if you take drugs, you can't be in choir anymore. You can't be in the chess club anymore. You can't be in the FFA anymore. We'll drug test all the kids. Oh, gosh, that's unconstitutional. Unless we're a private school, and then we'll go ahead and drug test all the kids. It's a way of life now, you see. The superintendent of Catholic schools for Cincinnati said the decision to provide drug testing at LaSalle was made with the knowledge and support of the Catholic schools office. They were not the first to do this. St. John's Jesuit High School in Toledo did mandatory testing of all students last year. And the spokesman from St. John said the program has gone well. He says, the program's not a gotcha. Quote, we're here to help our students. This is not something we use to point fingers. Many companies and organizations require pre-employment and random drug testing. This is a way of life for many Americans. By helping our young men make prudent, faith-filled decisions that are good for the present, we're preparing them for their future too. So not only is it a way of life, it's also for their own good. To get them used to the idea of giving up their Fourth and Fifth Amendment rights. This is also reinforced by the DEA. Spokesman Rich Isaacson said, this is a useful tool for combating peer pressure. It gives students another way to say no to drugs and alcohol. And they point out that private schools have more legal options because it's an enrollment contract with a parent rather than, the government, forcing everyone to go to school, right? So that allows them to get away with this where it wouldn't work in a public school. The Lakota schools in Butler County mentions they also do things like bringing in drug dogs for random searches. And, so there you go. So this is the idea, right? So you got the basics. You got the basics here. It's good for the kids because it helps them resist peer pressure. It's a way of life here in America anyway. You might as well just, resistance is futile. And, it's preparing them for the future because it is the way of life. Well, people much smarter than myself, much more educated on how teenagers work. People in the American Academy of Pediatrics in 1996 said that they should not do this, that there should be no involuntary testing of adolescents for drugs of abuse. And they reaffirmed this in 2006, lest you think I'm just picking something, cherry picking from the 20th century here. No, they reaffirmed this a decade later, even after technology changed, after many more studies came out. They have a policy statement called Testing for Drugs of Abuse in Children and Adolescents, and they rule against it. They oppose involuntary testing. Now, in their opposition, they say proponents of drug testing claim the existence of school or home-based drug testing will help adolescents refuse drugs and provide legitimate reasons to resist peer pressure to use drugs. Although these claims are not yet proven. Claims have not been proven whatsoever. And yet, in 2011, thanks to the folks at Students for Sensible Drug Policy, we found this study. Yet another study shows student drug testing doesn't work. This was a 2003 study. National Institutes of Drug Abuse found no difference between levels of drug use at schools that test their students and those that do not. And opponents of student drug testing for random reasons or just for going to school include not only the American Academy of Pediatrics, but also the National Education Association, the Association for Addiction Professionals, the American Public Health Association, the National Association of Social Workers, and the National Council on Alcoholism and Drug Dependence. But it makes the parents feel good. The parents think it works, and so nobody's really opposing it at any sort of level that might bring an end to this barbarity. The worst part to me is this idea that parents have, well, gosh, I got a pee test at work. Everybody's doing it. Is the worst excuse. You wouldn't accept that excuse from your kids. Why did you do pot? Well, everybody's doing it. Some reason that excuse doesn't work for smoking pot, but it does work for drug testing. Everybody's doing it. You know, the solution to your oppression is not the oppression of others. How about we start questioning why you have to take that drug test in the first place? Did it stop you from doing drugs? Is it stopping anyone from doing drugs? Drugs still exist. Drug users have jobs. We'll talk more about this in hour 2. Thanks for joining us here in hour 1. For everyone here at 420 Radio, I'm Radical Russ. Thanks for joining us, and until next time, take care of each other, tokers.
This is the Russ Belville Show. The Russ Belville Show is blogging and podcasting daily at radicalruss.com.
You take a seed, you plant it, you grow it, you dry it, you roll it, you smoke it. You take a seed, you plant it, you grow it, you dry it, you roll it, you smoke it. You take a seed, you plant it,